Hello, everybody. My name's James, and welcome to a very special Planet FPL podcast. Champions again, LA, LA. We've got something to celebrate. Our women's football correspondent, Lauren Harris, is back from Switzerland, and she's brought it home. How are you, mate?
I am very, very happy. Thank you, James. Happy to be wrong again.
Yeah, you're doing it on purpose, aren't you? For those who listen to the preview podcast and know you're not much of a tipster, are you?
Well, I mean, I think to be fair, that comment that you clipped was there's no chance they don't make it to the semi-finals about Spain, and that was, you know, they sailed into the semis, didn't they?
I
So
tell you what, I was thinking when we was losing to Italy, I was thinking there's only six teams we thought could win this tournament, and this wasn't one of them, and we're losing to them. It's not
yeah,
going well. We're going to
yeah,
have a little bit of a journey back through the tournament of obviously the Lionesses' success at European Championship. Just on the Italy thing though, the point we made about the six teams is quite relevant though, isn't it? Because the record dating back, I think, across the last two European Championships now is something like 127 drawn one, lost none for those six teams against teams that weren't from that six. So that's England, Sweden, Germany, France, Netherlands, and
mhm.
obviously Spain. They're they've pulled away from everybody else at the moment, haven't they, in terms of European football?
Yeah, they have. But I also think this tournament was probably the first tournament where we saw um, more so in the knockout stages with like Switzerland and Italy, Norway. Um, we saw a little bit more bite back. Switzerland made it really difficult for Spain in that first 60 minutes in their quarter final, and I think everyone. I mean, personally, I expected Spain to have probably score a little bit earlier and have more dominance in that game. Italy obviously made it really, really difficult for us. So I think those were two positives in terms of the wider sort of progression of women's football.
Yeah, we'll get to the Italy semi-final, but I didn't think we were going to score, and I know you were obviously in the ground and probably thinking the same. I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd started to think about the 4 hour journey back to my campsite and how grim that was going to be with us losing. But yeah,
But they showed really good tactical. Now, so we spoke about that on the preview podcast about the development of kind of less individuality in these
Mhm.
women's teams now, and more about team and tactics and systems. And I think we've seen that again throughout this tournament. Everything just feels like it's gone up another level in terms of the quality. I think mentally as well. When you think of particularly what we went through following England and the amount of times I said to you off camera before we started listening to the girls speak in their interviews after the game, and I'm thinking, I don't think you can do this, truthfully. But they always had that optimism and that belief that they would do it. The first test we had was obviously against France. That didn't go so well, beaten. How was you feeling at that point? Because we were in this group of death, and it put a lot of pressure on the Dutch game.
Yeah, I mean, I had very mixed feelings after that game. I think I was calm in the sense of I knew that if we didn't top the group, we would likely avoid Spain, and that didn't seem like the worst thing in the world. But the performance against France, particularly in the first half, was concerning and disappointing. Um, but I think there were certain things in that French game that went against us on another day. Like for example, the offside goal, was it offside? Like if that is given, it's probably a different game because we would have gone 1-0 up. But also if the goals end up as they did, we end in a draw, and I think the mentality would have been very different. But then going into that Netherlands game, knowing how good they looked against Wales was quite scary because it was such a high pressured game. Really, it was. If you don't win this, then there's real danger of going out. Um,
In hindsight, did Serena pick too much of an attacking team against France?
um, yeah, I mean, obviously that's one thing that she changed from the outset that she sort of didn't reverse was the Lauren James. Lauren James started in centre mid against France, didn't she? And then obviously we saw her on the right wing for the remainder of the tournament. I think France were always going to be the most challenging team in the group to play, and so yes, she probably that probably was a mistake. Um, but it's there are obviously things that, and I think as we go through the matches, there are things you can criticise Serena on, but at the same time, she's now won three. European Championships back to back. She's been in 5 finals
I mean, you will
back.
have seen it on social media, the same as everybody else, the amount of criticism in terms of when she was making the substitutions. And obviously, we had Michelle Ajamang and obviously Chloe Kelly making these big impacts off the bench.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of seems to like they wanted them in the team. That was particularly with Chloe Kelly for myself. It's like, want her in the team. She's
Mm.
proven instrumental in terms of an impact, but was still obviously having that impact off the bench, and she speaks so much about the relevance and importance of finishers, not substitutes, but finishers. You're
Hmm.
going to have an impact on this game later on. It was
Yeah.
quite predictable that those two players, particularly, were always going to come on for England, but she didn't wilt in terms of trying to change from that because she believed that they were good finishers, essentially.
Yeah, and I guess if we think back to 2022, I remember saying this to you in the preview pod. Those iconic goals from 22 were like Russo, Toon, and Chloe Kelly herself, and they were all substitutes in that tournament. And it's kind of been the same in this tournament. That, like you say, the finishers were the ones that got us over the line. And I think Serena's got so much experience that it's hard to to question her, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, I think exactly that. So everyone's gone back in. Oh my God, she has won it again
Yeah.
3 times in a row. Did you say it was 5 major finals in a row as well?
Yeah, so she got to the World Cup final with the Dutch before she came to England, and then obviously we got to the World Cup final as England and lost to Spain. So that's probably the trophy that she needs to go for now, 2027 maybe,
Are you going to
hopefully.
Brazil?
Well, we did talk about it on when we were in Switzerland. The difficulty is I don't know what the school term dates are going to, because the tournament finished on 25th July, and sometimes that's near the end of the school year. It just depends how the year falls. So um, I will be trying my best to go to Brazil, but we'll have to see how. Might
So
quit my job.
after France, bit of trepidation going into the Dutch game. But it felt like it was coming home again after that, right? So everything's well again. Everything's fine. I mean, to win 4-0 was mighty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, and particularly after how the Netherlands have played against Wales. I think if the Netherlands had just like scraped to win against Wales, you'd kind of expect that. But the Netherlands looked really, really good against Wales, and we just didn't give them any time. I mean, it looked like that mentality that they showed in the Netherlands game. I think is kind of it's how they approached every single match, and those really difficult times in the knockout stages. You sort of saw that they knew that that match was so important, and they weren't going to give it up. Um, and there were some great performances, and I think what was nice was you kind of had players again coming off the bench and performing well, and I think that's a theme of the tournament is our squad depth, and I think that's possibly what got us over the line versus Spain. Obviously, we'll come on to Spain later, but you saw a really good mix of good performances from lots of different players in that Netherlands game.
It wasn't just the tactical tweak in terms of moving Lauren Jones back out into a wider position. It was this change that felt a little bit odd to me at the time with moving Jess Carter into left-sided centre back,
Yeah,
Alex Greenwood to left back.
yeah.
That felt weird to me, but I obviously not watched the players as much as you would have.
Mm-hmm.
Should it have been that way from the start?
Um, it's a difficult one because I think we saw against Sweden where so Jess Carter's strengths are one-to-one defending. Like she's a really good tackler, but she's not that fast. And we saw that against Sweden. Sweden massively exploited that. And I think if Esme Morgan had started against Sweden, then it perhaps may have gone a bit differently. But I think against the Netherlands, she will have moved Jess Carter inside to sort of deal with Viv Miedemar. And I think she probably had seen in that French game that Carter hasn't got the pace to, wingers are typically fast, aren't they? And although she's really good at 1v1 defending, she's not got that pace to keep up with them. Whereas Alex Greenwood is, I mean, I've been a huge fan of Alex Greenwood for ages. Like I said, I remember saying that I thought she was player of the tournament in the World Cup. She can do both roles exceptionally well, and I think by putting Jess Carter in the middle of Greenwood and Williamson, she probably saw that as minimising weakness, as opposed to if
Do,
you've got someone running down
do
the
you
strike.
think at that point, obviously Millie Bright pulled out essentially before the squad was announced? with some speculation that maybe she wasn't going to be first choice,
Hmm.
and after a difficult year, I decided she wasn't going to go. Do you think at this point, if she'd been in the squad and been fit, that she'd played?
Yeah, I mean, it really surprises me that she wasn't going to be a starting player, because unless uh, there's no other players missing from that squad, so unless Serena saw Neve Charles, for example, as starting left back, and Greenwood was going to be the centre back, but Neve Charles was in the squad and she didn't do that, so I can't see how Millie Bright wouldn't have been preferred over Jess Carter anyway. Um, and I know that I've seen that comment that Millie Bright possibly chose not to be in the squad because she knew she wasn't going to start. But that I just can't get my head around that really.
No, but it has been widely reported.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, I personally wouldn't. I pre-tournament wouldn't have wanted Jess Carter to start, and I think we'll come on to the Spain game, and I think she had a phenomenal performance against Spain, and she's deserves all the credit that she got after that game. But I still think Millie Bright is a better centre back.
Okay. Going into the Wales game, were you looking more at what was going on in the other game?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I was enjoying how comfortable we were against Wales, but um, there was a moment when the Netherlands were winning where I was thinking, oh my god, this means that we're gonna have to go and we're gonna get Spain. Like we don't want this. Almost like willing France to win. Um, but then obviously at that point, did we? Oh no, we did know that. We knew that it was going to be Sweden rather than Germany. Yeah, and I think I wanted Sweden rather than Germany. Um, I think Germany probably would have caused us more problems, but then obviously Sweden did very well. So,
Do you think we'd have beaten Germany?
um,
I mean, it seems silly not to say that now, having now
mm,
won the tournament. But I had the vibe when I was watching the Spain-Germany semi-final. I think before that was like, I want the Germans to win. I was watching the semi-final, in all honesty, thinking, I'm not sure we'll beat either of these.
yeah, I mean, I was personally at the France Germany game. That was the first match that I managed to get to, and the moment that German defender got sent off in the ground, it was like, well, that's just killed the game. France are just going to go on and win this comfortably. And obviously, the Germans put up such a good fight. And I guess a little bit like us going through Sweden and Italy, it felt like they were gaining momentum from like beating France in that manner would have been so good for them. And really, they only went out of the tournament because of magic from Bonmati. I think if it went to penalties, they probably would have beaten Spain, as we saw, you know, on Sunday.
Germans on penalties.
Well, we beat them last time, so maybe we could have beaten them
Well,
again.
England have somehow managed to win two penalty shootouts in this tournament despite only converting 50% of their penalties, which is quite a remarkable statistic. This started causing me a bit of grief after we didn't, well, after the group was confirmed, because obviously at that point I'm thinking, okay, Sweden, possibly Italy, yeah, we should get to the final
Mm,
from here. And obviously we've just been away in Spain, and the other half's booked this really nice restaurant overlooking the sunset for the Sunday night. And I'm convinced all the knockout games at 8 o'clock UK time, so it'd be 9 o'clock out there. We won't have a problem for the final. We'll be back in the bath for the final, no probs. Finals 5 o'clock. I've now got a massive problem. We've got table booked at 7 o'clock. The final's kicking off at 6 o'clock in Spain. So problems. So that caused a bit of a war. And because she wasn't as interested in it as I was. At this point, you went out to Switzerland at this point.
yeah, so we drove out to Switzerland the day after the England Sweden match. So the night that England Sweden was on, I was sort of like finishing packing at half time and stuff. And at half time, it was literally like, you have to unpack the England shirts here because we were 2-0 down. We're going to go out to Switzerland. And we would have it was, yeah, really negative headspace at that point. And then obviously those two quick goals, um, like the positivity and momentum just changed in an instant. It was mad how quickly those two goals came. And then when they came, I thought we're going to win this. And then obviously there's that penalty shootout, which is just a roller coaster of emotions for everyone involved. I think.
25 minutes in, I we've become accustomed to knowing that this team can recover.
Mhm.
I actually said this quite a lot. Sorry to bring Tottenham into the conversation, but Tottenham in Angie's first season used to concede the first goal so often and still go on and win.
Yeah,
If it went 2-0, we was in massive trouble. When this went 2-0 against Sweden, I thought, can't see it. They were ripping us apart and transition on a counter attack. At the speed was too much, as you said, kind of Jess Carter was really suffering.
yeah. Um, I think Sweden tactically got that first half perfect, and to be honest, it could have been more than two, couldn't it? Because Leah Williamson obviously has that block on
Yeah.
kind of on the line. Hannah Hampton made a bit of a wobble, which that was probably the only real time that you saw Hannah Hampton struggle. I'd say I thought she had a really good tournament overall. Other than that sort of first half of the Sweden game, um, but I think they've the English squad seemed to have throughout the whole tournament created this proper English saying. They kept saying it in their interviews. We're putting in proper English performances, and I think they kept getting questioned on what does that mean? What's proper English? But they
Tempted to say shit, Lauren. That's a proper English performance, isn't it? Shit.
but it just felt like as much as we as fans were losing in at various times in various matches, were losing hope. They all seem to keep that mentality, and obviously that's what ultimately got them that final win. Um, Michelle Ajamang's obviously, you know, gone from probably pre-tournament. Most of the country had probably never heard of her unless you followed women's football, and now everyone knows her name. I think that the story of her tournament is remarkable, really. And you think she's only 19 years old, and um, I don't know if did you see that it became a meme. I think it was the Sweden game when the ref gave us a goal kick and it should have been a corner, and she's got that side on. Just
No,
oh, it's brilliant.
but I
Um,
think she'd made such a huge impact. I think Alessia Russo obviously does great work for the team, but
mhm.
we felt more dangerous when Ajerman came on. But I don't know if that's also an implication of opposition being tired, tired legs, etc.
Yeah, and also probably like a lot of those players will know how Alessia Russo plays. Like she's been around
Yeah,
for years, whereas Ajerman was a bit of an unknown. Unless players play in WSL, they wouldn't have. They'll have no idea, what her strengths are. So that was definitely she was a little secret that Serena kept in her back pocket to release.
who's the commentator was doing the game when Ajerman equalised? He completely lost his voice, didn't he?
Oh, I know who you mean. I can't think what his name is.
It's brilliant though, quite
Yeah,
iconic.
yeah,
Ajerman.
yeah, yeah. That was ITV, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I can picture him, and I've seen the videos of him um in throughout all the games. He's yeah, his voice is kind of an iconic women's football voice now. I think you've got iconic moments in games, and it's always
That
his voice.
that will stick, and so would memories of Lucy Bronze in this tournament. And obviously got England back into the game shortly beforehand. We didn't know it at the time, but supposedly she's played through the whole of this tournament with a fractured leg.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's even possible.
I mean, I'm almost not surprised that like if you told me a player in the squad has got a fractured tibia, you'd say it would be her. Um, she showed it in her performances. She will fight until the very end. She's not gonna, like Mary Earps and Millie Bryant and so on have chosen retirement before. Maybe they're not going to get minutes. Lucy Bronze will not leave that England squad until she is absolutely forced and pulled out of it. Like she will stay in the squad even if she's not playing. She's I don't know if you saw the clip of when they were taking the penalties in the final. She's like kind of like edging onto the pitch and shouting, like trying to g up the players, and George Stanway's having to pull her back because the fourth official was like, "What are you doing?" Like just she's just so passionate, and there's obviously that iconic moment of her strapping her leg now. Just um, yeah, she's phenomenal. I actually met her mum when we were on the fan walk in the Italian game. Her mum was there on the side, and so she's almost like an icon in herself. Her mum, she's a legend.
How does that conversation go? I love your daughter. Like,
Well, like, yeah, I
how
actually
does that get
my
approached?
my phone background was actually Lucy Bronze celebrating after scoring her penalty from the Sweden game. So I showed her, I was like, "Your daughter's my background," and then she got her phone out. She was like, "She's mine too," and then showed me. So
Probably a
yeah,
bit weird if it wasn't. Yeah, heroic, and I want to think one of the most iconic images of this tournament, which we can look back with fondness now, is the look in Lucy's eyes on Spain's goal, when she's lost her marker, and she knows it. She knows she's been done,
yeah,
and the resignation on her face long before the ball's hit the net, like it's on me. But yeah, as you said, the iconic of her bandaging up her leg herself, and then taking that off as well to score a penalty, which I think most of us watching would smash it because the Swedish keeper was doing great, but we seem to be going to our strongest side all the
same side
time.
every time. Yeah,
Someone put your foot through it, which is
I
obviously
was,
what Lucy did. In
I
fact, I
was,
I don't know if I've ever watched a penalty shootout where I've resigned myself to losing so
yeah,
many times
yeah,
and then still won. I
yeah.
can't recall it.
Yeah, no, same. But every single time someone was stepping up to take a penalty, I was screaming at the TV, "Get Lucy Bronze on a penalty! Why is Lucy Bronze not taking a penalty?" Because you just knew that she was going to lever the ball, and that's what it needed. Like you say, they, like I think I think all of our penalties were on target. One hit the post, did it? But
Yeah.
so it's not like they blasted them over the bar like the Swedish keeper did, but they it was like they were just tapping it, and you're like, what? Are you, come
Yeah,
on,
Grace Clinton's particularly was
yeah,
a real kind of head in hands moment.
yeah.
Um, Hannah Hampton really stood up at this moment because I think many of us who, again, would not watch WSL in the way say you have, and obviously she had an outstanding season at Chelsea,
Hmm.
probably don't quite understand why Mary Earps hadn't been playing.
Yeah,
We saw particularly in the Dutch game part where Hampton had been chosen because of an amazing distribution in
yeah,
terms of long distancing. But the one of the penalty saves she made here, and I know you said she had some iffy moments in the first half. One of the penalty saves, which would have put them through, was quite remarkable. It did remind me of Jordan Pickford's save from Jorginho in the men's Euros, just waiting as long as possible and stretching and getting just whatever you could on it to keep it out.
yeah. I mean, I think it was the same in the final when Paralluelo missed before Chloe Kelly scored the winner. That obviously went just wide. But I even like when I watched the penalty shootout back, Hannah Hampton gets so far across that you think even if she gets it on target, there's a strong possibility that she's saving that. So, and also
I've
maybe like that might have got in Paralluelo's head. She knows she's got to get it right in the corner because Hannah Hampton's going to save it, and so then obviously she's sort of overthought it.
I had a look. I don't know if you will have seen this, but in fact, I'll ask you a different question. Who would you say was England's player of the tournament?
I think you have to say Chloe Kelly for the big moments.
Even though she was primarily a substitute.
Yeah, because without Chloe Kelly, we wouldn't have the trophy. Like it's
Okay.
what about you?
Would she in your mind have had any right to put claim to be player of the tournament outright?
As in the whole,
Yeah, the whole competition.
I think it's difficult because I think Bonmati, as much as yes, she missed a penalty in the crucial moment for Spain, they wouldn't have got to that final without Bonmati, and I think her as a footballer, it's not all about goals. And obviously, Chloe Kelly had those immense moments. But for Chloe Kelly, it wasn't just goals. It was like the assist to Russo, for example, for the goal. But Bon Mati, as an overall player, showed why she's a Ballon d'Or winner. And not just that, to have had meningitis 2 days before the tournament and then to
Mm.
come and perform like she did, I think it's you can't argue Bon Mati winning that personally.
The reason I asked that, and it's probably right time to bring it up, is I had a look through SofaScore. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's just SofaScore, but at a glance, players' ratings during the cross of tournament, and it is done on metrics rather than just someone's opinion. There's only one England player in the top 20 across the whole tournament.
Lucy Bronze.
No, it was Hannah Hampton.
Oh, really? Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
And I probably would have said, yeah, because I think almost coming in from the cold in terms of the wider perception and then to put on the performance she did, I would have no doubt and feel comfortable with her in goal now as well. There's so much criticism of goalkeepers in women's football historically. This tournament again has showcased real improvements in that particular area as well. I feel comfortable with her in goal. There's nothing worse than having a team you support and you don't feel comfortable with your goalkeeper. I felt very comfortable with Hannah in goal.
Yeah, I mean, she is probably far more multifunctional than Mary Epps ever was. Like Mary Epps has always been a great sort of penalty saver and shot stopper, but yeah, I mean her ability to distribute with her feet. Um, Other than that, iffy moment against Sweden, um, and but I guess goalkeepers don't get the same recognition, do they? Like,
No,
has a goalkeeper ever won
no,
Ballon
you
d'Or?
almost
No.
need to go through this scenario of the penalty shootouts or massive moments to almost be the hero. But yeah, I think she would rightly, in my opinion, be able to state a claim as England's player of the tournament, actually. So you head off what straight after the Sweden game? Was it next day, was it? You went to
Yes.
Switzerland.
Yes, yeah. So we drove down to Reims and stayed there on the Friday night and watched the Spain Switzerland game in this weird, like, it was like a rock pub, this French rock, but it wasn't really a pub because France don't really have pubs. But it was just so bizarre because next door there was this rock gig going on, and we just asked the people, "Can you put the women's football on?" And they had this projector, and it was literally just us sat there watching this women's football. It was strange. Um, so yeah, we watched Spain Switzerland game on the telly, and then drove down to Basel the next day, um, and went to the France Germany game, and sort of got the first taste of the tournament. And it was such a good atmosphere. We got on a tram in Basel and we were singing England songs. And people on the tram probably think England aren't even playing today. Like, why is there people singing England songs? But then you had like there were Germans on the tram who then started singing songs back to us, and it was a really nice like kind of.
You trying
Um,
to incite that you've been a typical English hooliganism abroad
but
here,
it's
Lauren.
not. It's really hard to explain. Like the, I guess, banter's probably not the word to use, but at a women's football match, it's not it's not done with that same aggression and um, negativity. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more like we would sing an England song and then we'd chant Deutschland, give us a song, Deutschland, and then they'd sing back to us, and it was
Right, so you are more of a camaraderie, if you will,
yeah.
rather than
And
like a
but then there was
rivalry.
yeah, but then there were Swiss people on the train who started joining in with our songs, and it's just
I'm sure the locals were absolutely delighted, Lauren.
some of them.
Can you explain the difference in terms of atmosphere of a women's match and a men's match?
Um, I think every match that I went to around me, there were several different nationalities. So in the France Germany game, we were sat next to, there were a couple of Swiss women sat next to us. Behind us, there were some French, and there were Germans in front of us. And at no point was there ever like any animosity. It was all very, very like respectful. And in fact, we had conversations with them. We spoke about how do you think France is going to do? And then to the Swiss, said, who do you think is going to win? And they said, well, Spain, obviously. And then you're like, no, well, we're going to win. And then but it's all you wouldn't have that at a men's game. You couldn't have those four different nationalities sat together because it would just
I think you could, but I think you'd be more on your toes.
yeah yeah. I
Uh,
didn't feel unsafe at any point in any match ever. Um,
Has it ever kicked off properly,
no,
a women's match? No.
no, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I think the word I would use is more like celebratory. Like I went to the
Mm,
Women's FA Cup final when my team Tottenham was obviously a massive underdog and heavily outnumbered by Manchester United, but it felt more like you were going to more like a celebratory event
hmm.
rather than a must win at all costs. And it can still feel, particularly for you, obviously traveling to watch in England in this tournament, would have felt like you've got to win at all costs. But it feels more like everyone's having a celebration together. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think um, obviously women's football's still in its infancy, so like for me watching France Germany. it was amazing to see like the stadium packed out, but also to see that so many people had travelled from their home countries to come and watch. I think that going to the tournament in England, I probably missed things like the build up to the matches in the sense of like for the games that were at Brighton, I drove to the car park. I got on this park and ride bus, went to the stadium, but you didn't really experience
You're,
atmosphere because it
you're
was England.
yeah, you're at home. It's
Yeah.
different.
Whereas here, it felt like you kind of mingled more with lots of different nationalities, and you saw kind of the breadth of following for women's football. And I think we're still at a point where it's really nice to see those things, and you almost like if Spain had won, for example, and we were sat in the Spanish end, you're still like happy that there are women's footballers who are getting to see all these people. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, yeah. Was this your first trip overseas for football?
yeah, yeah,
So was there any trepidation about it? I don't mean in terms of trouble, just mean
yeah,
you're going abroad for a week for football. It's different to a holiday, isn't it?
yeah. I think the only trepidation I had was because we were camping, and it was like a whole week of camping. Is it? And then it rained literally the whole week, so we might as well have been in England. Um, but no, to be honest, just like all in the last few months building up to it, just sheer excitement. Um, and I think I was
Did,
excited to see how a tournament ran in another country as well.
did did the Lionesses mean more to you now than they did 2 weeks ago?
I'd say yes, although they did mean a lot before that. But
Yeah. Something everybody I've ever spoken to who watches any team abroad, it brings something. It feels like a massive commitment when you think
yeah,
about it. I went all this way to go and support this team. You just do have a greater sense of being towards it, I think. Tell me about Switzerland. I've not been. What's it like?
it's a
That,
beautiful country. I mean, obviously it rained a lot, but mountains and lakes, like we it's not just got it's got this amazing scenery of mountains and lakes, but then you've also got within it these really cool cities. So we went to Basel, Bern, Zurich, Geneva, Lucerne, and all of them have got like they've they've all got like rivers flowing through them, but their water is so clear and clean. Like when you compare it to the Thames, there's actually in several of those cities they commute home by they have a dry bag. They chuck the dry bag in the river, and the current takes them down. So they literally get in the water, and that's a method of commuting in Switzerland. It's bonkers. Yeah,
that's
you
definitely
couldn't
not
do
going
that
to
in the
take off
Thames,
with the
could you?
Thames. No, no,
No.
it's really not.
Um,
Semi-final was in Geneva.
the England one, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, did you go to both semis?
yes.
Okay.
The other one was in Zurich in that god awful
So
athletics.
Geneva, was that just stay down there in the campsite for that night or
No, no. So our campsite was near Lucerne, and it was about a 3.5 hour journey into Geneva, and then obviously you've got to get from the main Geneva station to um, the ground. But what was amazing about the whole tournament was that if you had a ticket, all travel was free. So we got a free 3 hour train for nothing. Um, and we thought we were sat in first class, and we were a bit worried that they were going to kick us out, but we showed them our match tickets, and they said enjoy the game. So it was like, okay, fine. We're
okay,
good.
fine.
Um, but yeah, so that was what made it. So when it was 95th minute and we're losing to Italy, I'm thinking it was nearly midnight because obviously it's an hour ahead. I'm thinking we've got a 4 hour journey home here. This is just
So was you
this
still
is
able to get a
awful.
train back as well?
Yeah, so that this was another thing. They put on extra trains, and a lot of English fans based themselves in Zurich because that's where the training base was. That's where a lot of the group matches were, and also that's where the semi-final was going to be if we'd won the group. And people obviously probably assumed that. So loads of people that were travelling back on train, and what they did was they basically had planned if it goes to extra time or penalties, they delayed those trains by 40 minutes to an hour, so no one missed their trains. Everyone could get home.
National Rail, please. It's
Yeah,
so
it's very
easy.
efficient.
Just
Yeah.
it staggers me how we can't get this organized here, but they are. Yeah, brilliant. That's great. So what time did that train get back? Like half two, 3 in the morning, or?
Yeah, so there were different kind of routes. I was trying to work out what's going to be the best because there were different trains you could get, and I had my car, so we basically drove about an hour to a place called Alton, and then it was 2.5 hour train from Geneva main station. But the train was so packed, there were so many people on it that we were stuck in this middle carriage bit, between the two carriages, and then we literally slept on the floor, but didn't care
I was,
because we'd
yeah,
won.
you've finished my sentence for me. You didn't care because
No.
we'd won. Did we take Italy too lightly?
Um, yes and no. I think Italy performed really well, and I think again it's probably Lucy Bronze's mistake for their goal. So, she's free at the sort of the back post in Lucy Bronze's position. Um, I think we seem to, like I think you said this earlier, we seem to take a while to get into a game and to read the team and be able to work them out. Um, and I think, like performance wise, this wasn't our best tournament in any way, shape, or form, but they just seemed to be able to grind out though in those difficult moments. Serena Biegman's comment made me laugh after the Italian game. She'd said something like, when it got to the 88th minute, I thought, oh, we better score soon or we're going to be out. But she's just so chill. Like, took her to the 88th minute. As me on the 60th minute, thinking, what are we doing here? And she's just cool headed.
Come on, you was in the ground. What was the vibe going through that second
Um,
half?
well, I had my partner next to me is a Millwall fan, really like negative, and I think that's probably because she's had it ingrained in her. She's
Well, I was
seen
gonna, if you
so
supported
much.
Millwall, you would be as well.
Yeah, like
Sorry, Lions fans.
she always tells me I'm like a spoilt football fan, obviously having supported Liverpool and seen loads of great things. And she's many a time seen a team like 2-0 up and then end up losing 3-2 or whatever. So when we were losing to Italy, she's just like, this is the worst thing. Like, what? And then she was going, I'm not going to semi final. I'm not going to the final. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm like, we haven't lost yet. Like, come on, we might. And then my mate on the other side of me going, they're going to do it. They did it against Sweden. It's okay. It was really, you had really mixed kind of vibes. But I'd say 3/4 of the ground were English fans. It felt like a home game. The chanting was so loud. And to be fair to the Italians down their end, they were amazing, really good, really loud. Um, but whenever an England chant started going, it was so loud. I don't know if that came across on the TV, but it felt like the majority of the stadium were England fans.
Yeah, it did, but it didn't feel like they were going to reward those fans. It was such a painful watch. It was basically all the way up until the final third was fine, but then it was either a panic or the final pass wasn't right. It seemed to be playing into their hands. I truthfully didn't feel like we had the keys to unlock the door. And I actually remember Chloe took a corner
Oh,
just
into the
before we
side netting.
equalised and put it into the side
Yeah,
netting. And I
fuming.
said, Done,
Yeah, that was like, okay,
done.
this is not our night. Like,
No.
because she doesn't do that. She's normally great at, her end product is normally amazing. But
Um, but they found a moment. Lauren Hemp going over obviously into the right hand side with the cross in. An Italian goalkeeper whose name Giuliani.
mhm.
She was brilliant in goal. She slipped it, but she had to wait till the contact in front, then mishandled it. And Ajamang's first touch wasn't great.
I know. I thought she'd messed it up. I was like, what? And then
And
just slots it through her legs, like
the
what you
the
were
12
worried
million
about.
people who were watching here in this country, plus the 20,000 or so English fans in the ground, probably simultaneously shouting, "Just fucking hit it,
Yeah.
please."
Ew. Yeah.
But she found its way in, and then the winner was controversial.
Yes. Yeah, well, in the ground, we had no idea what was going on because we didn't really see it. Um, and then
Well,
I was VAR, and I was like, what?
when I saw it live, I shouted penalty.
Yeah.
And I was quite keen to get the game done quickly as well because the wife was out, so Harry's still up. It's like 10:30 at night. He thinks it's Christmas. I'm like, I'm not pausing this game. It's not happening. So I think it was Beth Mead got fouled, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you could tell the Italian defender was like really right in her back, and I shouted penalty straight away. And I was in Slack with the patron. I was like, yeah, 100% penalty. Every time I watched it back more and more, I was like, I'm not sure about that. Not sure.
Well,
I'd be gutted if it was given against me
they showed the replay
after
on
the
the TV
decision.
in the stadium, and it looked to me from where I was like, oh well, that's a rugby tackle. That's definite penalty. But then yeah, you watch it afterwards, and it's like, don't, yeah, I don't know if that's
He probably is a foul, but you don't normally get him, is what I'd say.
yeah, yeah. Like you can't if if that happens anywhere else on the pitch or someone's going to play the ball and they get pulled over like this, it's always going to be a foul, isn't it? So I guess it should be. But like you say, it's not. You don't often get those.
Did you know Chloe Kelly would take it?
Yeah. I don't know if Stanway was on the pitch at the time. She might have already gone off. Stanway's, normally the penalty taker. Um, but I had no doubt in my mind that Chloe Kelly would score that penalty, and obviously she
Same.
did. She didn't. But um, I don't know if you saw the video I put in of when she scores penalty. There's an Italian fan sat a few rows in front of us. And when I watched it back, I was like, why is that England fan cheering? They just missed. But then I saw it was an Italian fan. The Italian fan's like proper cheering because she's missed. And then she sits down, everyone else
Yeah,
erupts.
there's few worse feelings than cheering your goalkeeper saving a penalty just for the opposition to score
Yeah.
the rebound. By the way, IFAB, can we not be considering this as a legitimate rule? It's being discussed to potentially cancel out rebounds,
Yeah.
so
It's
that the
not.
game would just stop. It seems like a nonsense to me. The
Well,
ball's in
then what
play.
happens afterwards? Is it a
I've
goal
no idea.
kick or?
I guess it'd just be a goal kick. Yeah, I guess.
But that's not like if a player has a shot, if a player takes a free kick and the goalkeeper saves it, are you then going to give it like what's the difference?
It's a nonsense, isn't it? Who was
Yeah.
the player running in alongside Chloe
Ella
for the
two,
rebound?
Ella
Ella,
two.
because you
She
know
would
if
have
Ella
got that.
Tuna got there, it would have been disallowed, don't you?
Oh really?
Yeah, because she was encroaching and she was just inside the
Oh was
box.
she?
Yeah.
Just good, just as well she didn't then. God.
Chloe has a great aura about her, doesn't she? And she doesn't come across as arrogant, but she also doesn't come across as that she lacks any self-belief in her own ability.
No, but I think it's absolutely, and she's definitely earned that. Everything that she did in this tournament, she's earned to be however she wants. But at the same time, in January, and she said it herself, she was in, she was ready to give up football. She wasn't going to play because of what had happened at Man City, and she wasn't getting played, and she was losing that belief in herself. And when you think about the fact that that was only in January, to how confident she seems now, and I've every right to be that confident. Um, it's we as Lionesses fans almost have to be thankful to Arsenal that they bloody signed her on deadline day because she wouldn't have been in the squad if they
Is
hadn't done
she
that.
going back to Arsenal permanently? Is that
Yes,
already done?
yeah, that's done. Yeah, they announced that before the tournament. Uh,
Yeah, the standing on the leaning on the corner flag. I couldn't think of a moment with a Lioness player that had had that kind of aura moment. A little bit like when Jude after the bicycle kick against
yes,
Slovakia,
yeah, yeah,
who just stood there in front of everyone, and that's what Chloe did. And to be honest, I wanted her to start the final. Did you think that Serena would change after the Italy game?
Um, I think I was probably more surprised that James started because of the doubts over her fitness levels. Um, but I think Serena probably saw it from the point of view of if we start Lauren James on the bench and we bring her on, and then she,
Yeah, I
isn't fit
accept
to
that.
carry on, then you're wasting two subs. And I guess it worked bringing Chloe Kelly on as a sub. Um, but she switched them in the final. So Hemp went on the right and James or Kelly went on the left. And I thought that was quite an interesting tactical move by her. She spoke about
Yeah,
the fact
she
that she
explained it
wasn't
way about it. So,
touching.
I mean, if you looked at where our crosses had come from, the two goals against Sweden and obviously the equaliser against Italy were all in swinging crosses. And
Yes.
as was obviously Chloe Kelly's cross for Alessia Russo in the
Yeah.
final. So I think it was a lot of theory in terms of that, where teams are going particularly low
Hmm.
against England. So change the angle was
Yeah.
causing a little bit more danger. Wasn't the only interesting tactical tweak because Lucy Brunn's trying to move into midfield on occasion
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I think that
I
was probably
hadn't
to overload.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was to try and give England a little bit more domination in terms of central areas. I thought the effort in the final was great because from what I'd watched of the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, I didn't truthfully think that we would
Yeah,
end up winning the trophy because,
yeah,
and I think it's okay to still say this afterwards, Spain were the best team in the tournament.
yeah.
But it doesn't mean England didn't necessarily deserve it on the day. I did think we had to score first, and then we didn't. But I should have known better, Lauren, because we should be used to this, right?
Yeah, it's theme of the tournament. Um, yeah, I mean, when they scored, I was concerned at that point that, like, before the game, I'd said I fully expect us to lose, but I really hope we don't lose 3-4 nil. Like, I hope we at least give it a good fight and we can be proud of ourselves. And then when it went 1-0, it's like, oh God, they're having so much of the ball. I felt like they would go on and score a second. And then when we got to half time and it was still 1-0, you kind of still have that hope. And I think I had that hope of we've got those game changers who can come on. Um, and also, I thought at that point that we were putting in really good performances. I thought the whole back line were defending on the whole really
Yeah.
well. They were getting battered by the Spanish wingers, like balls coming into the box, but every single time they cleared them or that they on the whole made the right movements, and that kind of gave me a bit of hope. I'd say the Spanish game was the calmest I felt throughout the knockout stages, which feels weird to say
I
because
understand
we're
it's because you
playing the
don't
best
feel the
team.
pressure. Even
Yeah,
though it's a final and obviously you've got to win, but you'd still, what's the worst case here? You walk away proud that they reached another final. They've lost
yeah,
to an amazing team. You can accept it. Whereas Italy would have, if we'd lost to Italy,
yeah. It's
yeah.
an opportunity lost. Yeah,
I thought Carter was outstanding in the final.
yeah,
I think it played to her strengths in terms of she's really good in terms of duels and the physical
hmm
nature of the game. I think England obviously defended deeper than themselves and it was more suitable for her. It was a surprise that she come back in though, having not obviously played the Italy game. Do you want to touch on obviously what happened after the Sweden game and the reaction of the Lionesses afterwards?
yeah. I mean, I don't think personally, I don't think I was surprised at the treatment that she got because I think when people make mistakes, we saw it in the men's final with Saka and Rashford. Uh, People look for scapegoats and people look to target a characteristic about that person. And I think it's disgusting that we're still in a situation where you know I think you are well within your rights to judge a person on their performance, but when you then go into the personal attack of their race, their gender, their sexuality, whatever it is, and all forms of discrimination. Um, that's obviously we have a massive way to go in both the men's and the women's game to eradicate that. And I'm also not surprised at the response from the Lionesses and Serena Wiegman. I think they've shown throughout the tournament they are all completely together. There's sort of no fractions. They kind of got judged a bit on. There was a celebration of some of the subs clicking their fingers in one of the games, and there was a question about is that a click between subs and starters, and it was kind of that was put to bed straight away. Like no, that's just that's something that as subs they've kind of used it as a tool to keep themselves focused and motivated together. Um, and so I wasn't surprised at all by the Lioness's reaction. And I think it is amazing that Jess Carter had gone through all that racist abuse, and she kind of said it herself that she wasn't sure if she's going to be able to carry on the tournament. But to then, I think Serena probably she's publicly said she played Esme Morgan in the Italy game tactically, but I think part of it will have been to take her out the limelight. But to then be told you're playing the final and to come back into such a high pressurised situation, having had that difficult game against Sweden and had all that abuse, to then come back and put the performance in that she did, I think that's so admirable. That just shows such resilience from her to do that.
Did you see her quotes? Um, that she was talking about. She was laughing with Serena Wiegman after the final, after obviously won the trophy, and she was saying, "Serena, this is the real me," and basically apologizing that she felt like she hadn't really been her true self. like personally,
Hmm.
during the tournament. She'd played like on nerves. She admitted it openly. And again, we should praise this in terms of being able to come out and think of these people are robots. They are human to make
Yeah,
mistakes, etc.
yeah,
I was sad that she wasn't at the celebrations, but it was also her decision to go back and play for Gotham,
yeah. And I don't know. There would have been absolutely. She would have got nothing but love from the Lionesses fans at that parade.
or without doubt.
Um, and so maybe it was, maybe it is a choice of wanting to play. Um, she's also, I don't know if you know this, but she's in a long-term relationship with the German goalkeeper, and she also plays for Gotham. So maybe it was,
No, didn't know that.
yeah, they're long-term. Um, so maybe it was just a case of I want to get home, and it seems
Yeah, it
mad
could
to go
be.
and play a football match though straight after you've been
Yeah,
to
but
the
the
final.
what you've just explained there would make a lot of sense, right?
Yeah,
Also, heartbreaking for Germany in the way they lost for the semi-final as well, right? So probably want to be there for each other. Again, don't really think about these things, right? I was really pleased with the performance in the final. I thought they give it everything that they could. It was more than what my hopes were, certainly sitting in a bar in Spain, having managed to get this dinner the night before because we managed to get the booking obviously moved, obviously. I'm in Spain now, watching England, but I'm surrounded by English people everywhere and all English, having our toasted sandwiches as we was joking before we
yeah,
started the
yeah.
podcast, Lauren. At half time, I thought it was done. I was getting the elbows. You should have left that booking. Yeah, we. But after Alessio equalised, was a good spell there where I felt the game was there to be won. It
Yeah, we
felt
look quite
really
dangerous.
50-50 for a while. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think, but there was also that chance in the first 2 minutes that I think maybe a fit Lauren James probably scores. I think if you look at the stats as a whole, I think we matched Spain for shots on target. I think they had 22 shots overall, but only five on target. I think I got that right. And obviously they had massive amounts of possession, but it felt like we limited their quality chances. I thought Georgia Stanway. Um, I think it's probably been quite tough for her. She's only just come back from injury and then she's gone straight into a tournament. And I don't think that her performances earlier in the tournament were that great. But in the final, she's coming up against arguably the three best midfielders in the world. And I thought she did phenomenally well. Um, there were so many stories there across the pitch. Lauren Hemp, I think, is she maybe hasn't had the end product throughout the tournament that we've seen before, but she worked so hard. She ran her socks off in every single game. And both defensively and offensively, I don't think that can be understated how important that was.
I prefer off the right.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it
interesting.
enables her to go both ways.
I think it also protected Lucy Bronze a bit because Lucy
Yeah,
Bronze does have
that
a tendency to sort of go forwards and
Serena
lead.
spoke about that. The idea of moving bronze inside was also to enable the ball out faster to get Hemp one
Yeah,
on one, possibly starting from a slightly deeper position, almost like a wing back rather than an out and out winger.
yeah. And that just shows the versatility of her as Hemp as a player as well. Um, and also, I think that Bronze going into the middle created more space for Kira Walsh. So that move that eventually got out to Chloe Kelly came to Walsh, and Walsh was able to create space, which hadn't perhaps happened in the first half.
Got done in the end, mate. Them pens. What you thinking at that point when it goes to pens?
Um, it's a 50-50, isn't it? Although where we were stood, we could kind of see Stephanie Frappart and the two captains, and we saw Stephanie Frappart point towards the England fans. And although that was the opposite end to where I was, we cheered it
That's where
like a
you wanted
goal.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we won the toss to choose to take the penalties first, and that just felt like a mental win to start with. I think I'm not surprised Mariona Caldente missed because she had missed penalties early in the tournament, but it really shocked me. Like when Bormati stood up to take a penalty, I said to my friends, "She's not going to miss this. There's no chance Bormati misses this penalty." And it was a really weak penalty. Hampton made a good save, but you really expect a player of her quality. But I think that just shows how you can sort of slate players for taking bad penalties, but I think Bonmati is a prime example of how pressure doesn't matter how good you are. Pressure can, like we saw with Harry Kane against France, and the
Yeah.
when he skies
And
it.
fatigue.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they had three
Tired.
back-to-back 120-minute
Yeah.
games, which is mad, really.
Did you cheer when Beth Mead scored the first time?
Yeah, they're like, what? Hang on, why is she taking it again? Because I didn't really, couldn't really, you couldn't see from where we
So
were. I didn't
yeah,
understand
clever
it.
clugs here. I was
Like
like,
what?
everyone's obviously cheering. I'm like, mm-mm.
Oh,
It's not counting that. So it felt inevitable that there could be little well, obviously missing is the worst, but having to take the penalty again is
yes,
what that would do to your mind. Oh,
yeah,
keeper knows I was definitely going that side. Do I still
yeah.
go that way? Which she then did,
And
and
she
it got
missed
saved.
against Sweden as well, didn't she? So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
but there were some better ones in there, and Hannah obviously stepped up when we needed her most. Obviously, save a couple of pens as well, and obviously fittingly with Chloe scoring the winning penalty.
yeah. I mean, I think Greenwood stepping up. She's so dependable. I had confidence in her scoring. When Neve Charles stepped up, I was thinking, why
She
is she
took a
taking
good
it?
one.
She did. I mean, I think if the goalkeeper dives the right way, though, possibly saves it. But
You know
maybe
what they
you know,
say, Lauren.
the
If it
body
goes in,
position.
it's a good one,
Well,
isn't it?
yeah. But maybe also the tactical side of they the goalkeeper Catacol may not have seen Neve Charles take a penalty, so she wouldn't know what side. Whereas obviously some of the other players have taken penalties for their club side. Like Mariana Caldente, it's obviously a lot harder for her because she is a penalty taker. So
What do you think this means next? We spoke so much after the last Euros 3 years ago about what it meant in terms of for the future of this country and participation for girls in sport, etc. This doesn't change that. It only, I guess, pushes it further in the right direction. But I feel this time as well, like it was more in people's psyche of wanting to watch the girls because people knew that they could do it. I think has been important. They'd been in the World Cup final since. They were in another final, obviously here. They'd won the Euros a couple of years before. I feel like for probably a 10-year period now, there's been a real belief of people wanting to watch the Lionesses in major tournaments because it's like could they can. I'm not just watching them because it's the girls are playing. I know they can do it as well.
yeah,
The viewing figures for the weekend's final were mad, really. It's like 18 million viewers. I think the Wales game had more viewers than the Club World Cup final,
well,
despite the fact that was obviously shown on terrestrial television on Channel 5,
yeah.
which, by the way, I had to watch because I was covering that competition on the podcast. The first two adverts were for the Women's Euros.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was. So there's obviously backing coming from, I think that was very much UEFA had put those adverts there to go up against FIFA. But it's definitely growing for people and continues to do so. There's not any stopping it now, is there? But you also
No.
said we're still in our infancy, really, in terms of women's football.
Oh,
Almost like a
yeah,
separate sport, right?
yeah. It's 100% still in its infancy because I think it's like when you look at men's football, there's not really ever any discussion about, they've broken this record of attendances, and because it's been around for years, people have been watching men's football for years, but women's football is still growing as a sport. Um, there were 7,000 fans at Trafalgar Square in 2022 when the Lionesses won, and there were 65,000 the other day, which just shows you the growth in itself. I think the marketing, you spoke about the adverts in the Club World Cup. I think the marketing for this tournament was huge. Like you say, like, I don't know if maybe because I was watching women's football matches, but it just felt like almost every advert had a women's footballer in it during the tournament. And it's those pieces of exposure that will grow it, not just with people that are already interested in women's football, but it gets other people involved in it. Also, like builds the players up as heroes. Like when I was growing up, Michael Owen, as I said before, Michael Owen was my hero. I didn't have that exposure. I still went to watch. Like I remember going and watching the Lionesses, and you had players like Faye White and Rachel Yankee, and I knew who they were, but I never saw them, and so they weren't heroes to me because I didn't see them. You didn't see them regularly. Um, I think the WSL and WSL2 rebranding is hopefully only going to help more progression. I think the clubs have to really hone their marketing strategies now. Um, we've always said Arsenal are a great team for that, and they've already sold. I think they sold 15,000 season tickets or something like that, pre-tournament or before the final. Um, but we saw a massive spike after Euro 2022 of attendances in the ground, and I think the clubs have really got to try and maximise that now. The London City Lionesses are probably going to have a huge impact, I think, on that within the WSL. Anyone who supports London City Lionesses supports solely a women's football team, which feels mad in itself.
It's
But that
interesting, yeah.
it's you kind of have that identity, and there's quite a split in women's football world of some people hate London City Lionesses because they think, a little bit like a Wrexham, they're buying their way to success, but at the same time you've got a female owner who is investing all of her money into that team because she wants to grow women's football and she sees it as a product that has potential. So I don't think you can really begrudge that, given the position that we're in. I think personally, it can only be good for the women's game if you've got women's football teams. They're not relying on the men doing well, for example, to
It's
they're
self-sufficient.
self-sufficient, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's what the teams need to be.
We'll be
Um,
previewing WSL together, which obviously kicks off early September. We'll do a podcast on that during the international break before that starts, where yes, London City Lionesses will be featuring of that. I think they start Arsenal, opening games,
yeah,
Chelsea, Man City. I think
yeah,
one of the things I want to touch on with you is it looks like there's a bit of a rebrand in terms of kickoff times and
yeah, that's
exposure of
interesting.
games, which I think
Yeah.
is going to be a real big positive for next season and the continued growth for the game as well. Lauren, thank you for bringing it home. You did. You didn't promise you would, but you did anyway. Thank you. Anything you want to plug before we finish?
Nothing to plug, but I just want to say a massive thank you to you, having just got back from your holiday. And over the last few years, you've shown a great commitment in yourself to do women's football podcasts. And I think the fact that you've recorded this with me straight off the plane just shows that. So thank you for being so supportive.
This is out on Saturday. I am literally straight off the plane because Lauren and I had a little bit of an agreement that if it did come home, we'd have to do something pretty quick. And that's what we've done. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Thank you, Lauren. Those are kind words. I appreciate it. The rest of the other mug correspondents are going to be here all week. Clash of Correspondents kicks off first thing Monday morning. Lauren, thank you very much to the Lionesses. Congratulations. Cue music, please. Man child.